Who touched you? 3 words. The entire kitchen stopped breathing. Zuri's hand froze halfway to the coffee pot. The porcelain trembled against her fingertips, a slight vibration that betrayed everything she was trying to hide. She didn't turn around. Didn't need to. She knew that voice. Low. Controlled. The kind of quiet that made grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit. Kong Jin-woo didn't raise his voice when he was dangerous. He lowered it. I asked you a question. The other staff had already scattered. She heard the soft rush of bodies retreating, the kitchen doors swinging shut with a whisper. Smart. They understood what she was still learning. When the boss spoke directly to you, everyone else became invisible. Zuri turned slowly, counted to 7 in her head. 1 breath for each step between survival and whatever this moment was becoming. He stood in the doorway of his private kitchen. Suit jacket gone. White shirt rolled to his elbows. Dark eyes fixed on the left side of her face with the kind of focus that dissected lies before they were spoken. The bandage was small, barely 2 inches, placed carefully over her cheekbone where makeup couldn't reach. She'd thought it was subtle. His expression said otherwise. Mr. Kong. Her voice came out steady. Years of practice. I'm fine. Just a clumsy. Don't. 1 word. It cut through her rehearsed explanation like a blade through silk. He moved closer. 3 steps. The space between them collapsed from professional to something that made her skin prickle with awareness. He smelled like oud and leather. Expensive. Controlled. Everything about him was controlled. His posture, his breathing, the way his hands stayed loose at his sides, even though she could see the tension in his jaw. I've employed you for 8 months, he said quietly. You've never been clumsy. You move through my home like water. Efficient. Invisible. Deliberate. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. So I'll ask again. Who touched you? Zuri's heart kicked against her ribs. She forced herself to meet his gaze. That was another mistake. His eyes were dark enough to drown in. Patient enough to wait forever. She'd seen those eyes before. In her father's lieutenants. In the men who smiled while they decided who lived and who disappeared. It was an accident, she said. I fell. You're lying. I'm not. Your pulse is racing. His gaze dropped to her throat. Lingered. You're counting. 1, 2, 3. You do that when you're afraid. Her breath caught. How did he know that? I'm not afraid of you, she said. I didn't say you were afraid of me. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jawline. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. I said you're afraid. There's a difference. His hand lifted. She didn't move. Couldn't. Every instinct screamed at her to step back, but something older and more dangerous kept her rooted. He touched the edge of the bandage. Featherlight. His fingers were cold against her warm skin. This wasn't a fall, he said. This was knuckles. A backhand, judging by the angle. Zuri's throat went dry. Someone hit you. His voice dropped even lower. Silk over steel. In my city. Possibly in my home. He withdrew his hand. Stepped back. The air rushed into the space he'd occupied. I'm going to ask you one more time, Zuri. The sound of her name in his mouth did something strange to her chest. Who? Touched. You. She should tell him. She knew that. Lying to a man like Kong Jin-woo was like lying to gravity. Pointless. Dangerous. Inevitable in its consequences. But telling him the truth meant exposing the one thread that connected her to the past she'd buried. The man who'd hit her wasn't random. He was a courier. A ghost from the syndicate she'd fled 3 years ago. He'd found her 2 nights ago outside the market, slammed her against the alley wall, and delivered a message that still burned in her memory. Your father wants you home. Stop hiding. If Jin-woo learned about her bloodline, about who her father was, she wouldn't just lose this job. She'd lose the only safety she'd built in 3 years of running. It won't happen again, she said carefully. I handled it. Something flickered in his expression. Not anger. Worse. Interest. You handled it, he repeated, almost amused. A maid. In my household. Handled a situation that left her with visible injuries. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out his phone. Didn't break eye contact. Yoon. A pause. Someone answered on the other end. Pull the security footage. Every camera within a 3-block radius of the house. Last 48 hours. Focus on our staff's movements. Zuri's stomach dropped. Send me anyone who made contact with her. I want names, faces, and current locations within the hour. He ended the call, slipped the phone back into his pocket. You don't have to do this, Zuri said quietly. It's nothing. Nothing. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Someone put their hands on something under my protection. In what world is that nothing? I don't need. I wasn't asking what you need. His voice cut through hers with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. I'm telling you what I do to people who disrupt the order within my walls. He turned toward the door. Paused. You're dismissed from your duties today. Stay in the house. Don't leave the grounds. Mr. Kong. He looked back. The morning light from the window caught his profile. Sharp. Unforgiving. Beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. When I find out who did this, he said quietly, I'll give you a choice. You can watch what happens to them, or you can stay in your room and pretend you don't know. His gaze held hers. But I need you to understand something, Zuri. From this moment forward, your safety is not optional. It's not negotiable. It's not yours to manage. He straightened his cuffs. A small, deliberate gesture. It's mine. The door closed behind him with a whisper. Zuri stood in the empty kitchen, her reflection staring back at her from the polished chrome of the espresso machine. The bandage felt like a brand now. A mark. A claim she'd never asked for. She'd made a mistake. Not in lying to him. In underestimating what her lie would cost. Because somewhere in this city, a man who thought he could touch her without consequence was about to learn a lesson that ended in erasure. And she'd just become the single most dangerous thing in Kong Jinwoo's carefully controlled world. A weakness he couldn't afford. A vulnerability he wouldn't surrender. She touched the bandage. Felt the ache beneath it. One day, she thought, someone would ask me about this scar. And I'd have to decide whether to lie. That day had come. And her lie had just chained her to the most dangerous man in Seoul. You're still here. That says something about you. You recognize this kind of pull, the dangerous one. The kind where protection looks like possession and you can't tell which one you want more. You're here because you know this attraction. Or you're afraid you will. Either way, you're not alone. Subscribe if this matters to you. Because this story, it gets worse before it gets better. And you need to see how it ends. Zuri climbed the service stairs to the staff quarters on the 4th floor. Her room was small, clean. A bed, a dresser, a window that looked out over the walled garden where nothing grew except perfectly trimmed hedges and stone. She locked the door, sat on the edge of the bed. Her phone was in her hand before she realized she'd reached for it. One contact. No name. Just a number she'd memorized and never saved. Her thumb hovered. If she called him, if she warned the courier that Jinwoo was looking, she might buy herself time. Might convince her father's people that she wasn't worth the trouble. But it would also confirm what she'd spent 3 years denying. That she was still connected. Still valuable. Still a piece on her father's board. She set the phone down. Walked to the window. Below, in the garden, 2 men in dark suits stood near the fountain. One of them spoke into a radio. The other scanned the perimeter with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The house had always had security. But this was different. This was a net closing. And she was trapped inside it. Across the house, in his private office on the 2nd floor, Jinwoo stood at the window with a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. Yoon had already sent the first batch of footage. He watched it on his tablet. Zuri leaving through the service entrance. Walking 3 blocks to the market. Returning 40 minutes later with groceries. Normal. He scrolled forward. There. An alley. Grainy footage from a traffic camera. A figure stepping out of the shadows. Too far to see details, but the posture was clear. Aggressive. Familiar. The figure grabbed her. Shoved her against the wall. Jinwoo's grip tightened on the glass. The footage was silent, but he could see her body language. Tense. Defensive. Not surprised. She knew him. The figure leaned in. Spoke. Released her. Walked away. Zuri stood there for 11 seconds. Then straightened her bag and continued home. Jinwoo replayed it. Paused on the figure's face. Ran it through facial recognition. 3 minutes later, a file appeared on his screen. Name. Andalo Koye. Nationality. South African. Known affiliations. Kagiso Syndicate. East Africa. Current location. Unknown. Threat level, moderate. Jinwoo read the file twice. Then he opened a separate encrypted message. Typed 4 words. Find him. Bring him. The response came immediately. Understood. He set the tablet down. Drained the whiskey. His reflection stared back at him from the dark window. Same face. Same control. But something had shifted. He'd built his empire on a single rule. Sentiment is a weakness. He'd watched his father destroy everything. Power, respect, legacy. Because he'd loved his mother too much to keep her hidden. Too much to let her go when the enemies circled. She died because of that love. Jinwoo had learned the lesson. Never care. Never claim. Never let anything matter more than control. For 15 years, he'd followed that rule without exception. Until this morning. Until a bandage on a maid's face made him feel something he didn't have a name for. He touched the window. The glass was cold beneath his palm. Zuri thought she was protecting someone. She didn't understand yet. There was no protection from him. Only surrender. The call came at 4:47 a.m. Zuri woke to the sound of her phone vibrating against the wooden nightstand. Once. Twice. 3 times before she reached for it. Unknown number. She let it ring out. 30 seconds later, it buzzed again. Same number. Her chest tightened. She counted to 7. Answered on the 8th ring. Silence. Then breathing. Controlled. Familiar. Zuri. Her father's voice was warm molasses over broken glass. Smooth until you touched it wrong. I know you're there, Mwanangu. My daughter. I can hear you counting. She closed her eyes. How did you get this number? The same way I've always known where you are. A pause. Did you really think 3 years and a new continent would make you invisible? What do you want? Andal said you've made yourself comfortable. Working as a maid. He laughed softly. It sounded like disappointment. My daughter. Scrubbing floors for a Korean crime lord. I'm not your daughter anymore. Blood doesn't expire, Zuri. You are Kajiso. You will always be Kajiso. She stood. Walked to the window. The garden was dark except for 2 security lights near the fountain. One of Jinwoo's men stood beneath the far light, radio in hand. I'm not coming back, she said quietly. I'm not asking you to come back. Her father's tone shifted. Business now. I'm asking you to remember who you are. What you were trained for. I'm not that person anymore. You handled Andal efficiently. Didn't scream. Didn't run. You assessed, adapted, and walked away clean. Pride crept into his voice. That's not a maid, Mwanangu. That's my daughter. Zuri pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Why did you send him? To remind you. And to deliver an opportunity. I don't want. Kong Jinwoo is expanding into African ports. Mozambique. Kenya. Tanzania. Her father paused. My territory. Her stomach dropped. You're positioned perfectly, Zuri. Inside his home. Inside his trust. No. I'm not asking you to betray him. Just observe. Report. Small things. Shipment schedules. Security rotations. The names of his international contacts. That's betrayal. That's survival. His voice hardened. He's a predator, Zuri. Just like me. Just like you were raised to be. Don't pretend working for him makes you innocent. She said nothing. Andal will contact you again in 3 days. You'll give him something useful, or I'll assume you've chosen a side that isn't your blood. And if I refuse? Silence. Then, I'd hate for Mr. Kong to discover his invisible maid is the daughter of the man whose ports he's trying to steal. That feels like the kind of information that gets people erased. The line went dead. Zuri stood at the window until the sun started to rise. She'd fled Johannesburg 3 years ago with nothing but a passport and the clothes she was wearing. Her father had built an empire on blood and logistics, controlling the flow of everything illegal from East Africa to the world. He'd trained her from childhood. Languages, strategy, how to read a room, how to disappear. She was supposed to inherit it all. Instead, she'd watched him execute a lieutenant's family. Wife, children, everyone, because the man had skimmed profits. She'd left that night, and she'd been running ever since. But her father was right about one thing. Blood didn't expire. And Kong Jinwoo, the man who'd just declared her safety as his territory, was moving into a war he didn't know he'd started. With her caught in the center, Jinwoo didn't sleep. He sat in his office, watching the sun bleed gold across the Seoul skyline, and reviewed everything he knew about Zuri. Name, Zuri Mwangi, possibly false. Age, 26. Nationality, Kenyan, passport verified, but documentation felt clean in a way that suggested professional forgery. Employment history, hired 8 months ago through a domestic staffing agency. References solid. Background check clear. Languages, English, Swahili, Korean, fluent, Mandarin, fluent, discovered via security footage, French, suspected. Behavior profile, exceptional, punctual, discreet, never complained, never asked questions. Perfect employee. Too perfect. Jinwoo had spent 15 years reading people. You didn't survive in his world without understanding the difference between competence and performance. Zuri was performing. But why? He pulled up the footage again, watched her walking through his home. The way she moved through rooms like she was memorizing exits. The way she never stood with her back to a door. Those weren't the habits of a maid. Those were the habits of someone trained. His phone buzzed. Yoon. Target acquired. Secure location. Awaiting instructions. Jinwoo stood, buttoned his jacket. 30 minutes later, he walked into a warehouse on the outskirts of Incheon. The space was empty except for a single chair beneath a hanging light. Andal Okoye sat in the chair, hands zip-tied behind him, blood trickling from his nose. 2 of Jinwoo's men stood in the shadows, silent. Yoon stood beside the door. He was at a hotel in Gangnam, booked under a false name. South African passport. Jinwoo approached slowly. Andal looked up. Fear flickered in his eyes, but he buried it fast. Replaced it with defiance. You've made a mistake, Andal said. His accent was thick. Johannesburg. You don't know who I work for. Jinwoo stopped 3 feet away. I know exactly who you work for. He pulled a chair from the shadows. Saturday. Kajiso Syndicate. East African Logistics. Your boss is expanding into human trafficking and weapons. Small operation. Regional. He tilted his head. Irrelevant to me. Andal's jaw tightened. Then why am I here? Because 2 nights ago, you put your hands on someone under my protection. Confusion crossed Andal's face. Then recognition. The girl? Jinwoo's expression didn't change. She's nobody, Andal said quickly. Just a message. Her father wanted. Her father. Andal stopped. Jinwoo leaned forward slightly. Tell me about her father. I can't. He'll kill me. I'll kill you. Jinwoo's voice was silk. The only question is whether it's fast or whether I take my time. Your cooperation determines the answer. Andal's breathing quickened. Her name is Zuri Kajiso, daughter of Amadi Kajiso. She ran 3 years ago. He's been looking for her. Found her 6 months ago but waited. Wanted to see what she'd do. Jinwoo processed this in silence. What does he want with her? She's his heir. Trained since childhood. Languages, strategy, combat. She was supposed to take over the syndicate. Andal swallowed. When she ran, he let her go. Said she'd come back when she was ready. And now he wants her positioned. Inside your organization. She's supposed to report on your African expansion. Jinwoo stood. Walked to the window. Outside, the industrial port stretched gray and cold beneath the morning sky. He'd suspected she was hiding something. He hadn't suspected she was a weapon aimed directly at him. Does she know what he wants? Jinwoo asked. He told her last night. Gave her 3 days to cooperate. Jinwoo turned. And if she refuses? Andal hesitated. He'll expose her. To you. Assuming I'd kill her. Wouldn't you? Jinwoo smiled. It was a cold, calculated thing. That depends entirely on what she chooses. He nodded to Yoon. Make him disappear. No body. No records. No trace. I want every account, every connection, every proof he existed erased by tonight. Yoon bowed slightly. Understood. Jinwoo walked toward the door. Wait. Andal's voice cracked. What about me? I told you everything. Jinwoo paused in the doorway. Didn't look back. You touched something that belongs to me. There is no version of this where you survive. The door closed behind him. Andal's scream was cut short. Zuri spent the morning in her room. She cleaned obsessively, scrubbed the floor, wiped down surfaces that were already spotless, reorganized her dresser 3 times. Anything to stop thinking about the phone call, about her father's ultimatum. About the man downstairs who'd looked at her bandage like it was a personal offense. At noon, someone knocked. She opened the door. One of the household staff, Minji, a young woman who worked in the laundry, stood in the hallway holding a garment bag. "Mr. Kong requests your presence for lunch," Minji said. Her voice was careful, formal. "He asked that you wear this." She handed Zuri the bag. I'm just staff. I don't." He was very clear. Minji's eyes held a warning. 1 o'clock. Private dining room. "Don't be late." She bowed slightly and left. Zuri closed the door, unzipped the bag. Inside was a dress. Simple, elegant, charcoal silk with a high neckline and long sleeves. The kind of thing that cost more than she made in 6 months. No, this was a test. Or a claim. Or both. She looked at her phone. 12:17. 43 minutes to decide whether she was a maid or a pawn. Whether she belonged to her father or the man who'd promised to protect her whether she wanted it or not. She touched the bandage on her face, counted to 7, and started getting dressed. The private dining room was on the 3rd floor. West wing. Zuri had cleaned it twice a week for 8 months and never seen it used. Now she understood why. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A table set for 2. Minimalist. Expensive. The kind of space designed for conversations that couldn't happen anywhere else. Jin-woo stood by the window, still in his white shirt, sleeves still rolled. He didn't turn when she entered. Close the door. She did. The lock clicked like a sentence. "The dress fits," he said. "You didn't have to." "I know." He turned. His gaze traveled over her slowly. Clinical. Assessing. "But I wanted to see you as something other than invisible." He gestured to the table. "Sit." She moved to the chair farthest from him. He smiled slightly, sat across from her. A moment later, staff entered with covered dishes. Set them down silently. Disappeared. Neither of them touched the food. "I'm going to ask you some questions," Jin-woo said. "And you're going to answer them honestly." "I don't. If you lie to me again, Zuri, this conversation will go very differently." His tone was pleasant. That made it worse. She folded her hands in her lap. Counted. "What's your real name?" "Zuri Mwangi." "Your father's name?" Her breath caught. He waited. "How did you?" "I'm going to save us both time." He leaned back in his chair. "I know who you are. I know who your father is. I know why Andal Okoye contacted you. And I know what your father wants." The room tilted. "The only thing I don't know," Jin-woo continued, "is what you want." Zuri's mind raced. If he knew, she was dead. If he knew and she was still sitting here. "Andal is gone," Jin-woo said quietly. "He no longer exists. Not in custody. Not in hiding. Gone." Her stomach turned to ice. "You killed him." "I erased him." He corrected her like she'd used the wrong word for a simple thing. "There's a difference." He poured himself water. Didn't offer her any. "Your father will assume you cooperated. Gave him up. He'll contact you again. Probably within 24 hours. And then you'll have a choice to make." He set the glass down. "You can work for him. Feed him information. Play both sides until one of us discovers the deception and ends you." His eyes held hers. "Or you can work for me." The words hung in the air like smoke. "I don't want to work for anyone," Zuri said. "That's not one of the options." "Why?" "Because you walked into my home 8 months ago with a false name, a clean background, and the training of someone who was raised inside a syndicate." He tilted his head. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? I wasn't sent here. I didn't know you were expanding into." "I believe you." She stopped. "You ran from your father. Found the furthest place you could. Took a job that made you invisible. That's not infiltration. That's survival." He leaned forward. "But survival ends the moment your father forces your hand. So now you choose. Him or me. Those aren't choices. Those are cages." "Yes." His voice softened. "But one of those cages keeps you alive." Zuri looked at the untouched food, the expensive dress, the locked door. "If I say no to both, then you leave this house with nothing. No protection, no resources, and your father finds you within a week." Jin-woo's expression didn't change. "How long do you think you'd last?" She knew the answer. 3 days. Maybe 4. Her father didn't tolerate refusal. "Why do you care?" she asked. "I'm just a maid." "You stopped being just a maid the moment someone put their hands on you." That's not an answer. He stood, walked to the window. I built this empire on a single rule, Zuri. Sentiment is a weakness. Caring about anything more than control is how you lose everything. He looked at her reflection in the glass. I watched my father love my mother so much he made her visible, put her in the light, thought his power would protect her. His jaw tightened. It didn't. His enemies used her, killed her, destroyed him. He turned. I swore I'd never repeat his mistake. The air between them felt charged. This morning, I saw a bandage on your face, and I broke 15 years of discipline. I activated my entire network, diverted resources, committed acts that could destabilize my organization. He crossed the room, stopped in front of her chair. For a maid I'd barely noticed until yesterday. He crouched. I level now. So when you ask why I care, the answer is, I don't know. And that terrifies me. His hand lifted, touched the bandage gently. But I do know this. You're mine now, whether you want to be or not. Whether I want you to be or not. His thumb traced the edge of the bandage. The only question is whether you fight it or accept it. Zuri's heart was a drum against her ribs. And if I fight, he smiled. Sad. Inevitable. Then I'll break you gently. But I'll still break you. He stood, stepped back. You have until tonight. Then I need your answer. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. One more thing. He looked back. If you choose your father, I'll understand. But I'll also erase you the same way I erased Andile. Completely, cleanly, without hesitation. His eyes held hers. But if you choose me, Zuri, I'll protect you from everything, including yourself. The door opened. 8 o'clock. My office. Don't be late. He left. The door didn't lock behind him. She was free to leave, free to run, free to choose. But they both knew the truth. Freedom was an illusion, and she'd just been claimed by a man who didn't know how to let go. Zuri sat in that dining room for 20 minutes. Then she stood, walked back to her room, changed out of the silk dress and into her uniform. She needed to think, needed to breathe, needed to find a way out that didn't end in erasure or surrender. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Mwanangu. Her father's voice was cold. Andile missed his check-in. I don't know where he is. Liar. The word was sharp. What did you tell Kong? Nothing. I haven't seen Andile since. He's dead. Or disappeared. Which means you talked. I didn't. 3 days, Zuri. You have 3 days to prove your loyalty. Deliver something useful, or I'll make sure Kong knows exactly who's been sleeping under his roof. The line went dead. Zuri set the phone down, walked to the window. Below, in the garden, Jinwoo stood near the fountain, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. She watched him for a long time. 2 men, 2 empires, 2 versions of captivity. Her father would use her and discard her the moment she stopped being useful. Jinwoo would protect her and own her in ways that felt like drowning. She touched the bandage, pulled it off. The bruise beneath was purple, ugly, fading. In 3 days, it would be gone. But the scar beneath, the one her father had carved into her soul over 26 years, that would never heal. Unless she let someone else try. Even if that someone was just as dangerous. Even if choosing him meant losing herself in a different way. She looked at the clock. For hours until 8. For hours to decide whether she was her father's daughter. Or Kong Jinwoo's weakness. She closed her eyes, counted to 7, and started preparing for a war she couldn't win. Only survive. Zuri spent the next 3 hours doing what she'd been trained to do since childhood. She gathered intelligence. Not for her father. Not for Jinwoo. For herself. She moved through the house with the same invisible efficiency she'd perfected over 8 months. But now she was counting, observing, mapping. 12 security personnel on rotation. Cameras in every hallway except the staff quarters. Panic buttons hidden in 3 rooms. 2 armored vehicles in the underground garage. 1 helicopter on the roof. Jinwoo's home wasn't a residence. It was a fortress, and she'd been living inside it, blind and comfortable, for 8 months. She found Minji in the laundry room, folding sheets with mechanical precision. Can I ask you something? Zuri kept her voice casual. Minji glanced up. Wary. Depends. How long have you worked here? 3 years. Has Mr. Kong ever? Zuri chose her words carefully. Taken an interest in staff before. Minji's hands stilled on the fabric. You mean the way he's looking at you? Zuri said nothing. Minji set down the sheet. Lowered her voice. No. Never. He doesn't see us. We're furniture. Useful. Invisible. She leaned closer. Until this morning, I'd never heard him speak to staff directly unless giving an order. And I've certainly never seen him send a dress. It doesn't mean anything, Zuri said. Minji laughed softly. It wasn't a happy sound. 3 hours ago, Mr. Yoon pulled everyone into the security briefing room. Told us your safety is now a primary directive. Anyone who sees anything unusual around you reports immediately. Anyone who fails to report will be terminated. She met Zuri's eyes. That's not nothing, Zuri. That's a claim. I didn't ask for. Doesn't matter what you asked for. Minji picked up the sheet again. Started folding. In this house, what Mr. Kong wants, Mr. Kong takes. The only question is whether you survive it. She glanced toward the door. Made sure they were alone. My advice. Don't fight him. Men like that don't lose gracefully. At 6 o'clock, Zuri returned to her room. Her phone buzzed the moment she closed the door. Unknown number. She didn't answer. It buzzed again. And again. On the 4th ring, she answered. Zuri. Not her father this time. A woman's voice. Familiar. Dada. Sister. Her chest tightened. Amara. He's furious. Amara's voice was tight with fear. Andila's gone. Completely. Father sent 4 people to find him. Nothing. It's like he never existed. Zuri sat on the edge of her bed. I don't know what happened to him. Liar. But there was no heat in it. Just exhaustion. You told Kong. And now father thinks you've chosen a side. I haven't. He's escalating, Zuri. He's moving up the timeline. Says if you won't cooperate willingly, he'll force your hand. How? Silence. Amara. How? He's sending someone else. Not a courier this time. Someone you care about. Zuri's blood went cold. Who? Me. The word hit like a fist. No. No. Amara, don't. I don't have a choice. Her sister's voice cracked. You know how he is. I'm on a flight to Seoul tomorrow night. I'm supposed to make contact, deliver his terms personally. He's using you to get to me. He's using both of us. Amara took a shaky breath. But here's the thing, Dada. I don't want to be used anymore. Zuri pressed her palm to her forehead. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe you had the right idea. Running. It doesn't work. He always finds you. Maybe if we run together. Amara, no? He'll kill you for even thinking about it. He'll kill me anyway. Her sister's voice steadied. I've watched what he does to people who disappoint him. I'm not stupid. If this job fails, if you don't cooperate, I'm the one who pays. Zuri's throat burned. I won't let that happen. Then what are you going to do? The question hung there. What was she going to do? Run, and her father would hunt them both. Cooperate, and she'd betray the man who'd promised to protect her. Choose Jin Woo, and her sister would. I need time, Zuri said. You have 18 hours. My flight lands at noon tomorrow. Amara, I love you, Dada. Whatever you choose, I understand. The line went dead. Zuri sat in the silence of her small room and felt the walls closing in. There was no right answer. Only versions of loss. She looked at the clock. 7:43 p.m. 17 minutes until Jin Woo expected her answer. She stood, smoothed her uniform, touched the place where the bandage had been. The bruise was still visible, fading purple against her dark skin. By tomorrow, you wouldn't see it unless you were looking. But she'd know it was there. She'd always know. Jin Woo's office was exactly what she expected. Minimalist. Controlled. Windows overlooking the city like a throne room view. He sat behind his desk, reading something on his tablet. Didn't look up when she entered. Closed the door. She did. He set the tablet down. Gestured to the chair across from him. She remained standing. He smiled slightly. Still fighting. I'm not fighting. I'm deciding. Have you? She met his gaze. I need to ask you something first. He leaned back. Waited. If I choose you, if I agree to this, what exactly does that mean? It means you work for me. Directly. Not as a maid. As an asset. Doing what? What you were trained to do. Intelligence. Strategy. Your father wanted you positioned inside my organization. Fine. You'll be positioned. But you'll report to me. And if my father contacts me again, you'll tell him exactly what I instruct you to tell him. We'll feed him information, control what he knows, turn his own strategy against him. Zuri's pulse kicked. You want me to play both sides. I want you to survive. This is how. He'll know. Eventually. Eventually. Jinwoo's voice was calm. But by then, I'll have already dismantled enough of his infrastructure that he won't be able to touch you. You don't know him. I know men like him. He stood, walked around the desk. Power. Legacy. Control. He's predictable. He's my father. That makes it worse. Jinwoo stopped in front of her. Close but not touching. Because he'll use that bond as a leash. Make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. His eyes searched hers. But you did choose yourself once. 3 years ago. You ran. That took courage. It took desperation. Same thing. He tilted his head. What changed? She thought of Amara. 18 hours away. Caught in the same trap. He's sending my sister. Jinwoo's expression shifted. Not surprise. Calculation. When? Tomorrow. Noon. He was silent for a moment. Then, what's her name? Amara. Is she like you? She's 23. Trained but sheltered. She's never run. Never defied him. Zuri's voice tightened. If I don't cooperate, he'll use her failure as an excuse to. She stopped. Jinwoo finished the sentence. To hurt her. Zuri nodded. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city lights flicker like dying stars. If you choose me, he said quietly, I'll protect her too. Why would you do that? Because she's leverage. Against you. Against him. He glanced back. And because you care about her. Which means she's valuable. Zuri's chest ached. This was his version of kindness. Transactional. Strategic. Wrapped in the logic of control. But it was still more than her father had ever offered. What do you want from me? She asked. He turned. Crossed the room until he was standing close enough that she could see the faint scar on his jaw. I want your loyalty. I don't give that easily. I'm not asking for easy. His voice dropped. I'm asking for absolute. And in return, I'll make sure no one ever touches you again. I'll dismantle your father piece by piece until he's nothing but a name you used to fear. I'll give your sister a way out. And I'll give you something you've never had. What? A choice that isn't between bad and worse. She looked up at him. This man who'd noticed a bandage. Who'd erased a person for touching her. Who'd broken 15 years of discipline because he couldn't stop himself. He was dangerous. Maybe more dangerous than her father. But her father had raised her in fear. Jinwoo was offering her power. If I say yes, she said slowly, I need conditions. His eyebrow lifted. You're negotiating? I learned from the best. He almost smiled. What conditions? My sister gets out. Completely. New identity. New life. Somewhere he can't find her. Done. And I want your word that you won't use her against me the way he would. Jinwoo's gaze sharpened. You don't trust me. I don't trust anyone. Smart. He nodded. You have my word. She's off limits. And one more thing. I'm listening. Zuri took a breath. Steadied herself. If I do this, if I become what you need me to be, I need to know I can still leave. That this isn't just another version of captivity. Silence. Jinwoo studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk. Pulled out a single key. This opens every door in this house. Including the front gate. He placed it in her palm. Closed her fingers around it. You can leave any time you want, Zuri. But understand this. He leaned closer. His breath warm against her temple. If you walk out that door, I'll let you go. I won't chase you. Won't force you back. But I also won't protect you. And your father will find you within a week. His hand covered hers. Tightened slightly. So the question isn't whether you can leave. It's whether you want to survive. She looked down at their joined hands. His cold. Hers warm. This isn't freedom, she whispered. No. His voice was soft. Almost gentle. But it's the closest you'll get. She closed her eyes. Thought of Amara on a plane. Thought of her father's cold calculation. Thought of 3 years running and the exhaustion that came with always looking over her shoulder. She'd spent her whole life choosing between bad options. Maybe it was time to choose the one that let her fight back. She opened her eyes. Okay. I choose you. The words settled between them like a contract signed in blood. Jinwoo's grip on her hand relaxed. But he didn't let go. Then we start now. He moved to his desk, pulled up a file on his computer. Your father's network relies on 3 primary ports. Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, Maputo. He turned the screen toward her. He's using shell companies to move containers. Weapons hidden in agricultural shipments. Standard. Zuri looked at the data, recognized the patterns immediately. He rotates the companies every 6 months. These are outdated. Jean Wu's eyes gleamed. So update them. She pulled the keyboard toward her. Started typing. Muscle memory. Years of training. She navigated through encrypted networks like she was walking through her childhood home. Within 10 minutes, she'd identified the current shell companies, the updated shipment schedules, the names of the port officials on his payroll. Jean Wu watched in silence. When she finished, he looked at the screen, then at her. You're better than I thought. I'm my father's daughter. She pushed the keyboard back. He trained me well. He trained you to replace him, not to destroy him. Maybe I'll do both. Something flickered in Jean Wu's expression. Approval. Hunger. Your sister arrives tomorrow at noon. I'll have people at the airport. They'll intercept her quietly. Bring her here. And then you'll convince her to trust me instead of him. Zuri's stomach tightened. She won't. Not easily. Then make it easy. He closed the laptop. Because if she refuses, if she tries to run back to your father, she becomes a liability. You said you'd protect her. I said I'd give her a way out. But she has to take it. His voice was firm. I don't save people who don't want to be saved, Zuri. Neither should you. She wanted to argue, wanted to demand guarantees. But he was right. You couldn't save someone who'd already chosen the cage. I'll talk to her, Zuri said. Good. He stood. You'll move out of the staff quarters tonight. I'm putting you in the East Wing. Private suite. Security access. Everything you need. I don't need. You're not a maid anymore. He cut her off. And I need my people to understand that. Starting now. He walked to the door. Opened it. Yoon stood in the hallway. Waiting. Show her to her new quarters. Make sure she is everything. Yoon bowed. Yes, sir. Jean Wu looked back at Zuri. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. She followed Yoon into the hallway. Behind her, she heard Jean Wu's office door close. Soft. Final. The sound of a cage locking. Or a weapon being loaded. She wasn't sure which. The suite was 3 times the size of her old room. King bed. Sitting area. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. A bathroom with marble counters and a shower big enough for 4 people. Zuri stood in the center of it and felt like she was drowning. This wasn't protection. This was ownership. Beautifully packaged. Strategically presented. But still ownership. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Mwanangu. Her father's voice was cold satisfaction. I knew you'd make the right choice. Her blood froze. What? Amara told me about your conversation. You're planning something. Playing both sides. I'm not. Don't lie to me. His voice sharpened. You think I don't know how you operate? You're going to pretend to help Kong while feeding me just enough to keep me satisfied. He laughed. I taught you that strategy, Zuri. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize it? She said nothing. Here's what's going to happen. Amara is already on her way. But she's not coming to deliver terms. She's coming as insurance. What does that mean? It means if you betray me, if you give Kong anything that damages my operations, I'll know. And Amara will pay for your disloyalty. Zuri's hand tightened on the phone. You wouldn't. I killed the Okonkwo family for stealing from me. You think I won't discipline my own daughter for treason? Silence. Then, you have a choice, Mwanangu. Be the weapon I trained you to be. Or watch your sister die because you chose a Korean gangster over your own blood. The line went dead. Zuri stood in her beautiful new cage and understood the trap completely. Her father knew her too well. Knew she'd try to play both sides. Knew she'd protect Amara above everything. And now he'd turned her sister into a leash she couldn't escape. She looked at the key Jean Wu had given her. Freedom. Except there was no freedom. Only different versions of captivity. And she'd just locked herself into both. Zuri didn't sleep. She sat by the window in her new suite, watching the city breathe beneath a blanket of smog and neon, and counted the hours until her sister arrived. At 4 a.m., her door opened without a knock. Jean Wu stood in the doorway, still dressed. He hadn't slept either. We need to talk, he said. She didn't ask how he'd gotten in. This was his house, his fortress, his kingdom. There were no locks that kept him out. He crossed the room, sat in the chair across from her, studied her face in the dim light. "You're planning something," he said. "I'm always planning something. You said that's why you wanted me." "I meant something stupid." His voice was quiet, controlled. "Something that prioritizes your sister over your survival." She said nothing. "Your father called you again. After you left my office." Not a question, a statement. "You're monitoring my phone," she said. "I'm monitoring everything." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "What did he say?" "That Amara is insurance. That if I betray him, she pays." Jinwoo nodded slowly. "Classic leverage. He knows you'll sacrifice yourself for her. Wouldn't you? For someone you love." His jaw tightened. "I don't love anyone. That's how I stay alive." "Then you can't understand." "I understand perfectly." His eyes held hers. "I understand that love is the knife people use to gut you. I understand that caring about someone gives your enemies a map to your destruction." He stood, walked to the window beside her. "I also understand that you're going to try to save her anyway, even if it kills you." Zuri looked up at him. "If our positions were reversed, if it was someone you cared about." "There is no one I care about." "Liar." The word hung in the air. Jinwoo turned. His expression was dangerous. "Excuse me. You care about control. About your empire. About the rule you've built your entire life around." She stood to face him. "And 3 days ago, you broke that rule. For me." His hand shot out, gripped her chin. Not hard enough to hurt. Hard enough to command attention. "Don't mistake obsession for care, Zuri. What's the difference?" His thumb brushed her jaw. "Care is voluntary. Obsession is a sickness. And which one am I?" He stared at her. Something shifted behind his eyes. Something raw. "I don't know yet." His hand dropped. He walked to the door. Stopped. "Your sister's flight was delayed. She lands at 2 p.m. now. My people will intercept her at the airport. Bring her directly here. And then you convince her that I'm the better option. That working for me means freedom. That your father is the cage, not me." He looked back. "But if she refuses, if she tries to contact him, tries to run, tries anything that compromises this organization, I will eliminate the threat. Are we clear?" Zuri's chest tightened. "You said you'd protect her." "I said I'd give her a way out. But I won't sacrifice my empire for your sister's loyalty to a man who's using her as bait. She's 23 years old. She's an asset or a liability. There's no third option in this world." His voice was ice. "You know that. You were raised in it." He opened the door. "Get some rest. You're going to need it." At 2:47 p.m., Eunice escorted Amara into the East Wing sitting room. Zuri stood when her sister entered. 3 years. She'd changed. Taller. Leaner. The softness Zuri remembered had been replaced with something harder. More guarded. Their father's influence. Amara's eyes swept the room. The expensive furniture. The security cameras in the corners. The locked door behind you. "So this is the cage you chose," Amara said. Her voice was cold. Defensive. "It's not a cage." "Really?" Amara gestured around. "Armed guards. Monitored conversations. A man who decides whether I live or die based on how useful I am." She looked at Zuri. "Sounds exactly like home." Yoon cleared his throat. "Mr. Kong will join you shortly. I'll be outside if you need anything." He left. The door locked behind him. Amara laughed. It was a bitter sound. Very reassuring. Zuri crossed the room. Pulled her sister into a hug. Amara stiffened. Then melted. Gripped Zuri like she was drowning. "I missed you," Amara whispered. "Dada, I missed you so much." "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I left you there." "Don't." Amara pulled back. Wiped her eyes quickly. "You did what you had to do. I understood." She sat on the couch. Looked exhausted. "But now I'm here. And father expects me to bring you back in line. And if I fail..." She trailed off. Zuri sat beside her. "You're not going back. I don't have a choice." "Yes, you do. Stay here. Work with me. We can. Work for him." Amara's voice rose. "The man who erased Andile like he never existed? The man who owns you now? He doesn't own me. Then why are you wearing a dress that costs more than I made in a year? Why are you living in a suite instead of staff quarters? Why does everyone in this house look at you like you're his property?" Zuri's throat tightened. "It's complicated." It's not complicated. It's exactly what father does. Control dressed up as protection. Jinwoo is different. Is he? Amara leaned closer. Did he give you a choice? Or did he give you an ultimatum and call it freedom? Zuri said nothing. Amara's expression softened. I'm not judging you, Dada. I understand survival. But don't pretend this is something it's not. The door opened. Jinwoo entered. Yoon behind him. Amara stood immediately. Instinct. The same way Zuri used to stand when their father entered a room. Jinwoo gestured for her to sit. Relax. This isn't an interrogation. Then what is it? Amara's voice was steady, but Zuri saw her hands tremble slightly. A negotiation. Jinwoo sat across from them. Calm. Controlled. Your father sent you here to leverage your sister's cooperation. To make sure she feeds me useless information while he plans his real moves. Amara's face gave nothing away. I'm offering you a different option, Jinwoo continued. Work for me. Both of you. Help me dismantle your father's operations piece by piece. In return, I'll give you what he never will. And what's that? A life that belongs to you. Amara laughed. You're asking me to betray my own father. I'm asking you to choose yourself. Jinwoo's voice was quiet. Precise. Your father has been preparing to marry you off to a Tanzanian warlord, sealing an alliance. You leave for Dar es Salaam in 6 weeks. The color drained from Amara's face. Zuri's heart stopped. What? You didn't know? Jinwoo looked at Zuri. He's been negotiating for 3 months. The warlord wants a young wife. Educated. Beautiful. Kajiso lineage. He turned back to Amara. Your father gets access to new territory. The warlord gets a trophy. And you get a life of brutality in a country where you don't speak the language. Amara's breathing quickened. You're lying. I'm not. Jinwoo pulled out his phone. Swiped. Turned the screen toward her. Contract. Signed 2 weeks ago. Your father just hadn't told you yet. Amara stared at the document. Her hands shook. Zuri grabbed the phone. Read. It was real. Every word. Her father had sold Amara like cargo. Mwanangu, Zuri whispered. I didn't know. I swear. Of course you didn't know. Amara's voice cracked. He never tells us anything until it's too late to fight. She looked at Jinwoo. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what you're choosing. Him or yourself. Jinwoo pocketed his phone. If you go back, you have 6 weeks of freedom left. Then you belong to a man who's killed 3 wives already. And if I stay here, then you work for me. I train you, protect you. And when this is over, I'll give you a new identity, new life, anywhere you want. Why would you do that? Because your sister cares about you. And I've recently discovered that I care about what she cares about. His gaze flicked to Zuri. Brief. Waited. Also, you're valuable. You know your father's network. His habits. His weaknesses. Jinwoo leaned back. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a trade. Your knowledge for your freedom. Amara looked at Zuri. What do you think I should do? Zuri took her sister's hands. I think you should choose the option that lets you live. Even if it means betraying him. He betrayed you first. Zuri's voice was fierce. He sold you. Like you were nothing. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I thought he loved us. He loves control. Zuri pulled her sister close. But we don't have to let him control us anymore. Amara buried her face in Zuri's shoulder. Sobbed. Zuri held her. Looked at Jinwoo over her sister's head. He watched them with an expression she couldn't read. Not satisfaction. Not triumph. Something almost like recognition. Like he was seeing something he'd forgotten existed. 20 minutes later, Amara had cried herself quiet. Jinwoo had left them alone. Given them space. The sisters sat together on the couch. Amara's head on Zuri's shoulder. I'm scared, Amara whispered. I know. What if father finds us? Then we fight. Zuri squeezed her hand. Together this time. Amara was quiet for a moment. Then, do you trust him? Jinwoo. Zuri thought about it. The key in her pocket. The suite. The claim. I trust that he wants to win. And right now, we're on the same side. That's not the same as trust. No. Zuri's voice softened. But it's the closest I've got. If you're still here, heart racing and hands shaking, I see you. My mom told me nobody wants stories this raw. That people scroll past pain, not toward it. She said I'd never reach 1K subscribers making people feel this much. But you're still here. That tells me she was wrong. That there are people who don't run from hard truths. Who understand that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that hurt. If this story is doing something to you, changing something, healing something, breaking something open, subscribe. Not for me. For the person scrolling tonight, trapped between bad options and worse ones, desperate to know they'll survive. You could be the reason they find this. The climax is coming. The choice that changes everything. Stay with me. That night, Jin-woo called them both to his office. Amara sat quietly beside Zuri. Still processing. Still fragile. Your father will expect contact within 24 hours, Jin-woo said. Amara, you'll call him. Tell him Zuri is cooperating. That I'm expanding into Mozambique next month and you've seen shipping schedules. You want me to lie to him, Amara said. I want you to give him exactly enough truth to keep him satisfied. And just enough lies to lead him into a trap. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. These are the details you'll feed him. Shipment dates. Warehouse locations. All of it real. All of it bait. Zuri looked at the paper. You're setting him up. I'm letting him think he's winning. When he moves to intercept the shipments, my people will be waiting. He'll know it's a trap, Amara said. Eventually. But by then, I'll have already taken 3 of his ports and half his coastal network. Jin-woo's voice was calm. Clinical. Your father's weakness is arrogance. He thinks he's the smartest person in every room. He usually is, Zuri said quietly. Not this time. Jin-woo's eyes met hers. This time, he underestimated what you'd become. The weight of that statement settled over her. Her father had trained her to be his successor. He'd never considered she might use that training against him. Make the call tomorrow morning, Jin-woo said to Amara. Zuri will be with you. I'll be listening. Follow the script exactly. Amara nodded. Jin-woo stood. You'll both stay in the East Wing. Separate suites. Full security. Don't leave the grounds without clearance. He looked at Zuri. I need to know you're both committed. That you understand what happens if this fails. We understand, Zuri said. Good. He walked to the door. Paused. One more thing. He looked back. Your father is going to retaliate. When he realizes what you've done, he'll come for you with everything he has. His gaze was steady, unflinching. When that happens, I need to know you won't hesitate. That you'll choose survival over sentiment. We will, Zuri said. But even as she said it, she wondered if it was true. If when the moment came, when it was her father's life or hers, she'd be able to pull the trigger. Or if 26 years of blood would win. Later, after Amara had gone to her suite, Zuri stood on her balcony. The city sprawled below. Infinite. Indifferent. Somewhere out there, her father was planning his next move. And somewhere in this house, Jin-woo was planning his. And she was the knife they'd both used to cut each other. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Mwanangu. Her father's voice was silk. Amara arrived safely, I assume. Yes. Good. And how is Mr. Kong treating you both? Like assets. He laughed. Honest. I appreciate that. A pause. Has he told you his plan yet? The trap he's setting for me using false shipment data? Zuri's blood turned to ice. I'm disappointed, Zuri. Did you really think I wouldn't have people inside his organization? That I wouldn't know exactly what he's planning? She couldn't speak. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to continue playing your role. Feed him information. Pretend to help him. And when the moment is right, when he's completely exposed, you're going to give me the one thing I actually need. What? His location. His schedule. His vulnerabilities. Her father's voice hardened. And then I'm going to kill him. And you're going to watch. So you remember what happens when you choose strangers over blood. The line went dead. Zuri stood on the balcony, the phone trembling in her hand. Her father had known. The entire time. Every move. Every plan. And now she was caught between 2 men who both believed they'd already won. When the truth was simpler. They were both going to destroy each other. And she was going to burn with them. Zuri didn't tell Jin-woo about the call. She told herself it was strategy. That she needed time to think. To process. The truth was simpler. She didn't know who to trust anymore. Her father had people inside Jin-woo's organization. Which meant everything they'd planned. Every trap. Every move. was compromised. And if she told Jin Woo, he'd escalate, lock down the house, interrogate his own people, turn the entire operation into a war zone. Amara would be caught in the crossfire. So Zuri stayed silent and counted the hours until everything collapsed. The next morning, Amara made the call. They sat together in Zuri's suite. Jin Woo in the corner, listening, his expression unreadable. Amara's hands shook as she dialed. Their father answered on the second ring. Mwanangu, father. Amara's voice was steadier than Zuri expected. I'm with Zuri. We're both safe. Safe. He repeated the word like it amused him. Is that what you call it? She's cooperating. Kong trusts her. He shared information about his Mozambique expansion. Silence. Then, what kind of information? Amara looked at the script Jin Woo had given her. Read it word for word. Shipment dates. Warehouse codes. Security rotations. All of it bait. All of it useless if her father already knew it was a trap. When she finished, their father was quiet for a long moment. You've done well, Amara. Both of you. His voice was warm, proud. It made Zuri's skin crawl. Come home, he said suddenly. Both of you. I'll send a plane. We'll handle Kong together. As a family. Amara's eyes widened. We can't, Zuri said, leaning toward the phone. He's watching us too closely. If we disappear, he'll know something's wrong. Then kill him. The words were casual, like he was suggesting dinner. What? Amara's voice cracked. You have access. Proximity. Trust. Their father's tone was matter of fact. Put something in his drink. A knife while he sleeps. I don't care how. Just end him. I can't, Amara started. You can. And you will. Because if you don't, I'll assume you've chosen him over me. His voice turned cold. And I will burn that entire house to the ground with both of you inside it. The line went dead. Amara dropped the phone like it had burned her. Jin Woo stepped forward, picked it up, looked at Zuri. He wants you to kill me. He's testing us, Zuri said quickly. He doesn't actually expect. He absolutely expects it. Jin Woo's voice was calm, too calm. And when you don't deliver, he'll retaliate. He walked to the window. How long have you known he has people inside my organization? Zuri's breath stopped. Jin Woo turned. You went quiet last night. After a phone call you didn't tell me about. This morning, you've been distracted. Calculating. He crossed his arms. So I'll ask again. How long have you known? Amara looked at Zuri. Confused. Afraid. Since last night, Zuri admitted. He called. Said he knows about the trap. That he has intel from inside your network. And you didn't think that was worth mentioning? I was trying to protect. Your sister. Jin Woo's voice was ice. I know. But in doing so, you've compromised this entire operation. He pulled out his phone. Typed something. 30 seconds later, Yun entered. Lockdown protocol, Jin Woo said. No one in or out. Full sweep of all personnel. I want every communication from the last 72 hours reviewed. Yes, sir. Yun left. Jin Woo looked at the sisters. You're both confined to this wing until I identify the leak. If either of you try to leave, my people have orders to stop you. Permanently, if necessary. You can't, Zuri started. I can. And I am. He moved toward the door. You chose to keep information from me. Now you live with the consequences. Jin Woo, wait. He stopped. Didn't turn around. I thought we had an agreement, Zuri. Loyalty. Absolute. His voice was quiet. Devastated in a way she'd never heard. Apparently I was wrong. The door closed behind him. Locked. For 3 hours, Zuri and Amara sat in silence. They could hear movement in the hallway. Voices. Orders being given. The house had become a prison. I'm sorry, Amara whispered. This is my fault. If I hadn't come. Don't. Zuri pulled her close. This was always going to happen. Father doesn't let people go. We were foolish to think we could outmaneuver him. What do we do now? Zuri didn't have an answer. She walked to the window, looked down at the garden. 2 guards stood by the fountain. 3 more near the gate. The net had tightened, and she'd helped tie it. Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Zuri. Not her father this time. A woman. Familiar but wrong. Who is this? Someone who can help you. I don't. Your father has 12 people inside Kang's organization. Security. Staff. One of his lieutenants. The woman's voice was crisp, professional. Jinwoo will find maybe half of them. The rest will stay hidden. And when your father gives the order, they'll kill everyone in that house. Zuri's grip tightened on the phone. How do you know this? Because I used to work for your father. Before I got smart and disappeared. A pause. My name is Thandai. I was one of his strategists. I know how he operates. And I know he's planning to move against Kong within 48 hours. Why are you telling me this? Because I owe your mother a debt. And because I don't want to see her daughters die for their father's ego. Zuri's throat tightened. My mother's been dead for 10 years. I know. I was there when she died. Thandai's voice softened. She made me promise to watch over you both if I ever got the chance. This is that chance. What do you want me to do? Get out. Tonight. I'll send you a location. Bring your sister. I'll have transport waiting. Jinwoo won't let us leave. Then you need to make a choice, Zuri. Trust the man who's locked you in a cage, or trust someone who actually knew your mother. The line went dead. Zuri stood there, phone in hand. One more impossible choice. One more version of captivity or death. Amara stood beside her. What did they say? Zuri looked at her sister. 23 years old. Sold like cargo. Used as bait. She thought about their mother. The way she used to sing to them. Swahili lullabies that promised safety and love. The way she died. Quietly. Without fighting. Because their father had broken something in her that couldn't be fixed. Zuri had promised herself she'd never become that. Never let a man, any man, break her that way. But here she was. Locked in a suite by one dangerous man. Hunted by another. And her sister's life hanging in the balance. She made a decision. At midnight, Zuri picked the lock. It took 7 minutes. Muscle memory from childhood. The hallway was empty. The guards had rotated. Brief window. She grabbed Amara's hand. We have to move. Now. Where are we going? Anywhere but here. They made it to the service stairs. Down 2 flights. Then alarms screamed. Red lights flooded the hallway. Shit. Zuri pulled Amara faster. They burst through a side door into the garden. Footsteps behind them. Shouting. They ran. Made it to the east wall. Zuri boosted Amara up. Started climbing after her. A hand grabbed her ankle. Pulled. She fell. Hit the ground hard. Air knocked from her lungs. Yun stood over her. Gun drawn. Don't move. Amara was already over the wall. Gone. Zuri's chest ached. Relief. Terror. At least one of them got out. Yun hauled her to her feet. Zip-tied her hands. Mr. Kong wants to see you. Jinwoo's office. 3 a.m. He sat behind his desk. Calm. Controlled. But his eyes burned. Yun pushed Zuri into the chair. Left. Silence. Jinwoo stood. Walked around the desk. Looked down at her. You ran. I was trying to save my sister. By breaking our agreement. By proving I was right not to trust you. He crouched in front of her. I level. I gave you a key, Zuri. I told you that you could leave any time. All you had to do was ask. You locked me in. I protected you. His voice was soft. Dangerous. There's a difference. Is there? He stared at her. Something cracked in his expression. I have spent 15 years building this empire. Eliminating weakness. Refusing to care about anything that could be used against me. He touched her face. Gentle. Reverent. And then you walked into my house. With your lies and your scars and your quiet strength. And you destroyed every rule I'd built. His thumb traced her jaw. I don't know if I'm protecting you or destroying myself. But I know I can't let you go. He stood. Your sister is gone. My people lost her at the east checkpoint. She's smart. I'll give her that. He walked to the window. But you're still here. And your father is still coming. And I need to know, Zuri, when he does, whose side are you on? She looked at him. This man who'd noticed a bandage. Who'd broken his own rules. Who held control like a religion and obsession like a sickness. And she realized something. She wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of how much she wanted to trust him. I'm on my side, she said quietly. He turned. Then prove it. He cut the zip ties. Handed her a gun. Your father's people are making their move tomorrow night. I know where. I know when. And I'm going to end this. His eyes held hers. You can stay here. Safe. Uninvolved. Or you can come with me and finish what you started 3 years ago. She looked at the gun in her hand. Cold. Heavy. Familiar. She'd fired her first weapon at age 9. Her father's lessons. Maybe it was time to use them the way she chose. I'm coming with you, she said. Jinwoo smiled. It was a beautiful, terrible thing. Then let's go to war. Before they left the office, Jinwoo paused. Looked at her one more time. The red alarm lights had faded. The house was quiet again. Outside the window, the sun was starting to rise. Pale gold bleeding across the gray city. When this is over, he said softly, you're free. Truly free. No obligations. No debts. She looked at him, surprised. I don't want you because you're trapped, Zuri. I want you because you choose me. He touched her face. One last time. So after tomorrow, after your father is gone and the threat is eliminated, you get to decide. Stay or go. His hand dropped. And I'll let you. For a moment, in that quiet office with the sunrise painting everything gold, she almost believed him. Almost believed freedom was possible. Almost believed love didn't have to feel like drowning. Then the moment passed, and they went to prepare for war. They had 16 hours to prepare. Jinwoo's intelligence confirmed it. Her father's people would strike at midnight. Coordinated attack. 12 operatives embedded within the organization. The goal wasn't just to kill Jinwoo. It was to send a message that Amadi Kajiso didn't tolerate betrayal, even from his own blood. Zuri spent the morning in Jinwoo's war room, a space she hadn't known existed until today. Underground, reinforced, walls covered in screens showing security feeds, maps, surveillance footage. Yoon stood at the center table, marking positions on a digital map of the compound. We've identified 8 of the 12, he said. 2 in security, 3 in logistics, 2 household staff, 1 driver, and the other 4? Jinwoo asked. Still searching. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. He looked at Zuri. Your father's people. How would he position them? She studied the map. Years of training clicked into focus. He'd put his best people in positions you'd never suspect. Not security. You'd vet them too carefully. Not new hires. Too obvious. She pointed to the map. He'd use people who've been here longest. The ones you trust implicitly. Jinwoo's expression darkened. Give me names. Zuri closed her eyes. Thought about the household. Who'd been kind to her. Who'd been invisible. Minji, she said quietly. Laundry staff. 3 years employed. She knew too much about your habits. About me. Yoon typed. Pulled up Minji's file. Clean background. Perfect references. Too perfect. She's one, Zuri said. I'd bet my life on it. You are, Jinwoo said. Who else? Your chef. The one who's been with you since you took over this house. Kim. Yoon looked skeptical. He's been loyal for 15 years. Exactly. Zuri met Jinwoo's eyes. My father always said the best sleeper agents are the ones who wait decades. Who become invisible through longevity. Jinwoo nodded slowly. Detain them both. Quietly. I want them isolated before tonight. Yoon left to execute the orders. The room fell silent. Jinwoo walked to the window, reinforced glass overlooking an underground parking level. His reflection stared back at him. You're good at this, he said. I had a good teacher. Do you miss it? That life. Zuri considered the question. I miss the clarity. Knowing who the enemy was. What the goal was. And now everything is complicated. He turned. Is it? She looked at him. This man who'd claimed her with a question. Who'd broken his own rules. Who'd handed her a gun and called it trust. You confuse me, she admitted. Good. He crossed the room. Stopped close enough that she could smell oud and gunpowder. Confusion means you're thinking. Considering. Choosing. His hand lifted. Touched her face where the bruise had been. Almost gone now. If you weren't confused, you'd already be gone. Maybe I should be. Maybe. His thumb traced her jaw. But you're still here. So are you. He smiled. Sad. Inevitable. I told you. I don't know how to let go. The door opened. Yoon returned. Minji and Kim are secured. Both denied involvement initially, but Minji broke when we showed her surveillance of her encrypted communications. He pulled up footage on the main screen. Minji in the laundry room. Phone hidden in a basket of towels. Typing rapidly. The messages were in code, but Zuri recognized the pattern. Her father's signature encryption. She's been reporting for 18 months, Yoon said. Everything. Schedules. vulnerabilities. She's the reason your father knew about the Mozambique trap. Jin Woo's expression was ice. And Kim, still denying. But his daughter lives in Johannesburg. We pulled her financials. She's received monthly deposits from an offshore account registered to a Kajiso shell company. Leverage, Zuri said. My father found his daughter. Threatened her. Kim had no choice. Jin Woo looked at her. Does that excuse it? No. But it explains it. He turned to Yoon. Execute Minji. She chose this willingly. Kim gets one chance to cooperate. If he provides intel on the remaining operatives, he lives. If not, he joins her. Yoon nodded. Left. Zuri's stomach turned. She'd just sentenced someone to death. Someone who'd been kind to her. Who'd folded her laundry and asked if she was okay. Someone who'd been reporting her every move to her father. You hesitated, Jin Woo said. She was nice to me. She was acting. His voice was firm. This is the world you chose, Zuri. Sentiment gets people killed. I know. Do you? He stepped closer. Because when your father is in front of you tonight, when it's his life or yours, you're going to have to make the same choice. And hesitation will get you erased. She met his gaze. I won't hesitate. Prove it. At 8 p.m., a call came through. Encrypted line. Unknown number. Zuri answered on speaker. Mwanangu. Her father's voice filled the war room. Jin Woo stood beside her. Silent. Listening. Father. I'm impressed. You found Minji and Kim faster than I expected. You're using the training well. What do you want? I want you to understand something. His voice was calm. Educational. Tonight, when my people come for Kong, you have a choice. Step aside and let it happen. Or die with him. There's a third option, Zuri said. Oh, I kill you first. Silence. Then her father laughed. It was warm. Genuinely delighted. There she is. My daughter. The weapon I built. His voice shifted. Pride mixed with menace. You think you can kill me, Mwanangu? The man who taught you everything? Who made you what you are? You also taught me that every teacher has a weakness. And I know yours. Enlighten me. You underestimate the people you've hurt. You think fear is loyalty. That blood is obligation. Zuri's voice steadied. But I'm not afraid of you anymore. And blood means nothing when it's been weaponized. She leaned toward the phone. So tonight, when you come for us, remember this. You created me. But you don't control me. Not anymore. She ended the call. The silence in the war room was absolute. Jin Woo stared at her. Something like awe in his eyes. That, he said quietly, was either the bravest or most foolish thing you've ever done. Probably both. He pulled her close. Sudden. Desperate. His forehead pressed against hers. His breath warm on her lips. Promise me something, he whispered. What? Promise me that if it comes down to him or me, if you have to choose, you'll choose yourself. She pulled back slightly. Looked at him. Why does it matter? Because I need to know you'll survive this. Even if I don't. Her chest ached. Jin Woo. Promise me, Zuri. She touched his face. Cold skin. Sharp jaw. Eyes that had seen too much and still looked at her like she was something worth protecting. I promise. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Claiming. The kiss of someone who knew tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. She kissed him back with the same ferocity. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers again. After tonight, he said, you're free. I meant what I said. I know. But I need you to know, his voice cracked slightly. I want you to stay. Not because you're trapped. Not because you're useful. But because you want to. She closed her eyes. Ask me tomorrow. After we survive. And if we don't. She smiled. It was a broken, beautiful thing. Then it doesn't matter, does it? At 11 p.m., Thandao called. Zuri stepped into the hallway to answer. Jin Woo watched from the doorway. Your sister is safe, Thandao said without preamble. I have her in a secure location. She's asking about you. Tell her I'm alive. That I'll find her when this is over. If you survive. If I survive. A pause. Then, your mother would be proud of you, Zuri. She spent her whole life afraid. But you chose to fight. You really knew her? I loved her. Thandao's voice softened. She was the only person who ever made your father human. When she died, he became the monster you know now. Zuri's throat tightened. Why didn't she leave? Same reason you almost didn't. She thought she could fix him, save him, change him with enough love. Silence. But some people don't want to be saved, Zuri. They want to own you. And your father is one of them. I know. Good. Then make sure tonight is the last time he gets to try. The line went dead. Zuri stood in the hallway, the weight of it all settling over her. Her mother had died loving a monster. She wouldn't make the same mistake. She walked back into the war room. Jinwoo looked at her. Ready? She picked up the gun he'd given her earlier. Checked the magazine. Chambered around. Let's end this. At 11:47 p.m., the alarms went silent. Not a malfunction. A coordinated shutdown. The remaining 4 operatives had made their move. Jinwoo's backup systems kicked in. Red emergency lighting flooded the compound. They're inside, Yin said. Voice calm despite the chaos. Jinwoo handed Zuri a calm piece. Stay on this channel. Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Trying to save me. She smiled grimly. No promises. They moved together through the darkened hallways. Zuri's training kicked in. Muscle memory. Reading corners. Calculating angles. She'd spent 3 years running from this life. Now she was running toward it. Armed. Angry. Ready. Ahead. Gunfire erupted. Jinwoo's security team engaging the infiltrators. And somewhere in this compound, her father's people were hunting. Hunting her. Hunting Jinwoo. Hunting the future they tried to build from the ashes of their broken pasts. Zuri tightened her grip on the gun, counted to 7, and stepped into the war she was always meant to fight. The first body was in the east corridor. One of Jinwoo's security team. Throat cut. Still warm. Professional. Silent. Her father's signature. Zuri stepped over him. Kept moving. Jinwoo's voice crackled through her calm. North wing secure. 2 hostiles down. Where are you? East corridor. One of ours is dead. Fall back to the war room. We're regrouping. Gunfire cut him off. Then static. Jinwoo. Zuri pressed the calm. Jinwoo, respond. Nothing. Her pulse spiked. She changed direction. Headed toward the last location she'd heard gunfire. The main library. She moved through the darkness. Emergency lighting casting everything in crimson. Ahead, voices. She pressed against the wall. Peered around the corner. 4 men. Armed. Tactical gear. And kneeling in the center of them. Hands zip-tied behind his back. Jinwoo. Blood running from a cut above his eye. Expression cold. Defiant. One of the men spoke into a radio. Target secured. Awaiting orders. A voice crackled back. Her father's voice. Bring him to the East Garden. I want the girl to watch. Zuri's breath stopped. They hauled Jinwoo to his feet. Started dragging him toward the garden exit. She had seconds to decide. Follow them. Spring a trap she wasn't prepared for. Or fall back. Get help. Let them take him. She thought about his words. Promise me you'll choose yourself. She looked at the gun in her hand. Then at Jinwoo's back, disappearing through the door. Fuck it, she whispered. And followed. The garden was lit by floodlights. Someone had set the stage carefully. Jinwoo was forced to his knees by the fountain. The same fountain where guards had stood just days ago. Where she'd watched from her window and wondered what choice to make. Now the choice was here. Zuri positioned herself in the shadows. Counted the hostiles. 6 visible. Probably more hidden. Bad odds. Movement at the far gate. A car pulled through. Black. Armored. The door opened. Her father stepped out. Zuri's chest constricted. 3 years since she'd seen him in person. He looked exactly the same. Tall. Commanding. Gray-threaded hair cut sharp. Expensive suit that cost more than most people made in a year. He moved like a king surveying conquered territory. Walked straight to Jinwoo. Looked down at him. Kong Jinwoo. Seoul's untouchable kingpin. Her father's voice was silk. On your knees in your own garden. How does it feel? Jinwoo said nothing. Her father smiled. Dignified to the end. I respect that. He turned. Addressed the darkness where he knew she was hiding. Zuri, I know you're here. I taught you better than to abandon someone you care about. His voice carried across the garden. Calm. Almost gentle. Come out, Monengu. Let's finish this as a family. Zuri's hand tightened on the gun. She could shoot him from here. Maybe. The angle wasn't perfect, but if you're thinking about taking the shot, her father continued. Remember that I have 12 guns trained on Kong right now. You fire, he dies. Instantly. He waited. But if you come out, if you talk to me, maybe we find another solution. Maybe I let him live. Jin Woo's voice cut through the night. Don't. Zuri, don't. One of the guards hit him. Hard. Jin Woo's head snapped to the side. Blood sprayed. Zuri's vision went red. She stepped out of the shadows. Walked into the light. Her father's face transformed. Genuine joy. There she is. He opened his arms. My daughter. My beautiful, brilliant daughter. She stopped 10 feet away. Gun at her side. Let him go. So you can run away together? Build a life. Her father laughed. Zuri, you can't run from what you are. I've proven that. I'm not running anymore. No. He studied her. No, you're not. You're finally standing still. Facing me. That's growth. He gestured to Jin Woo. But you're standing still for the wrong man. He's not like you. Isn't he? Her father walked a slow circle around Jin Woo. He's a crime lord. Built his empire on blood. Eliminates threats without hesitation. Controls everything around him. He stopped. Looked at her. The only difference between him and me is that I'm honest about what I am. He dresses it up as protection. As honor. But control is control, Mwanangu. He gave me a choice, Zuri said. And what did you choose? She raised the gun. Aimed it at her father's chest. I chose myself. For a moment. One beautiful, crystalline moment. Her father looked proud. Finally, he whispered. You're ready. Then he moved. Fast. Faster than she remembered. He grabbed one of his own men. Used him as a shield. Zuri fired. The bullet hit the man instead. He dropped. Chaos erupted. Jin Woo threw himself sideways. Rolled behind the fountain as gunfire lit up the garden. Zuri dove behind a stone bench. Bullets chewed through marble inches from her head. She counted rounds. Calculated positions. Returned fire. 2 of her father's men went down. She ejected the empty magazine. Reloaded. Muscle memory. Her father's training. She was using everything he'd taught her. To destroy him. Across the garden, Jin Woo had gotten his hands free. One of the guards lay dead beside him. Jin Woo held his gun now. Their eyes met across the carnage. He nodded. She nodded back. Then they moved as one. Zuri broke left. Drew fire. Dropped another hostile. Jin Woo broke right. Took out 2 more. Within 30 seconds, the garden was littered with bodies. Only one man remained standing. Her father. Gun in hand. Aimed at Jin Woo. Zuri's gun trained on her father. Mexican standoff. Lower the gun, Zuri, her father said calmly. Let him go. I can't do that. He's a threat to everything I've built. Everything you'll inherit. I don't want your empire. You say that now. But give it time. Power is genetic, Mwanangu. It's in your blood. He took a step toward Jin Woo. I'm going to kill him. And you're going to let me. Because deep down, you know I'm right. You know he's just another cage. He's not. Then prove it. Her father's voice hardened. Shoot me. Your own father. The man who raised you. Taught you. Loved you. His finger tightened on the trigger. Kill me, Zuri. Or watch me kill him. Choose. Time slowed. Zuri saw it all simultaneously. Her father's finger on the trigger. Jin Woo's eyes. Calm. Accepting. Resigned. Her own hand. Steady. Trained. Ready. She thought about her mother. Dead at 42. Broken by love. She thought about Amara. Safe now. Free. She thought about 3 years of running. Of being invisible. Of surviving instead of living. And she thought about Jin Woo's words. I want you to stay. Not because you're trapped. But because you want to. She made her choice. Pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the garden. Her father staggered. Looked down at the blood blooming across his chest. Then up at her. Not anger in his eyes. Pride. There she is, he whispered. My weapon. My legacy. He fell. Zuri stood frozen. Gun still raised. Smoke curling from the barrel. She'd done it. She'd killed her own father. The man who'd raised her. Destroyed her. Shaped her into something deadly. Jin Woo got to his feet. Walked to her slowly. Gently took the gun from her shaking hands. It's over, he said softly. She looked at her father's body. Blood pooling beneath him. Is it? Jin Woo pulled her close. Yes. Sirens in the distance. His people mobilizing. Cleanup crews. Damage control. The machine of his empire already moving to erase what had happened here. Zuri stood in his arms, and felt nothing. Not relief. Not grief. Just emptiness. She'd won her freedom, but the cost was written in her father's blood on the stones beneath her feet. Later, after the bodies had been removed, after the garden had been hosed down, after statements had been given to Jin Woo's people, Zuri sat alone in her suite. She stared at her hands. Clean now. Scrubbed. But she could still feel the gun's recoil. Still see her father's face. There she is. My weapon. Had he been right? Had she just proven she was exactly what he'd made her? A killer. A weapon. A daughter of violence. Or had she proven something else? That she could make the hard choice. The necessary choice. That survival sometimes meant destroying the thing that made you. She didn't know. And maybe that was the point. Maybe freedom wasn't clarity. Maybe it was living with the uncertainty. The door opened. Jin Woo stood in the doorway. Changed clothes. Face cleaned. But exhaustion written in every line of his body. Can I come in? She nodded. He sat beside her. Didn't touch. Just sat. You saved my life, he said. I killed my father. Both things are true. Silence. Do you regret it? He asked. She thought about it. Really thought. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that he made it necessary. She looked at Jin Woo. But no, I don't regret choosing your life over his. Why? Because he would have destroyed everything. Everyone. He couldn't stop. Didn't know how. She took a breath. And because you gave me something he never did. What? The option to leave. Jin Woo's hand found hers. Laced their fingers together. You still have that option. Nothing's changed. Everything's changed. Then ask yourself the question that matters. He turned to face her fully. Not what you owe. Not what's strategic. Not what's safe. His eyes held hers. What do you want, Zuri? It was the simplest question. And the hardest. What did she want? Safety? She'd never really have that. Not completely. Freedom? She had that now. Could walk away. Start over. Disappear. Love? That word still terrified her. But there was something else. Something she'd felt in the garden when they'd moved together. When they'd fought as one. Partnership. Equality. Being seen. Really seen. Not as a weapon or a pawn or a daughter or a maid. But as herself. Complicated. Violent. Broken. Trying. I want to stop running, she said quietly. I want to build something instead of just surviving. She squeezed his hand. And I want to do it with someone who understands that love doesn't mean ownership. Jin Woo's breath caught. Is that what this is? Love? I don't know. She smiled. Small. Fragile. Real. But I'm willing to find out. If you are. He pulled her close. Kissed her forehead. Her cheeks. Her lips. Soft. Reverent. Nothing like the desperate kiss from before. This was different. This was choice. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. I broke every rule for you, Zuri. I'd break them again. I know. But I need you to know something else. What? I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm different from your father. That protection doesn't have to be possession. That loving you doesn't mean caging you. His voice was fierce. Determined. And the day you want to leave, if that day comes, I'll open the door myself. She touched his face. Traced the scar on his jaw. What if I don't want to leave? Then we build something new. Together. She kissed him again. And this time, it felt like a promise. Not of perfection. Not of easy. But of trying. Of choosing each other every day. Of two broken people building something whole from the wreckage of their pasts. Outside, dawn was breaking. The garden would bloom again. Eventually, the blood would wash away. The bodies would be forgotten. But this moment, this choice, would remain. Zuri had spent her whole life being what other people needed. Her father's heir. Jin Woo's asset. A weapon. A pawn. A runaway. Now, finally, she was just Zuri. Flawed. Free. Choosing. And that was enough. 3 months later, Zuri stood in the garden where her father had died. The blood was long gone. The stones had been replaced. New flowers bloomed where bullets had torn through earth. But she still saw it when she closed her eyes. His face. The pride. The blood. My weapon. My legacy. She touched the scar on her cheekbone. Barely visible now. You wouldn't notice unless you were looking. But she knew it was there. Just like she knew some scars lived deeper than skin. You're up early. Jin Woo's voice behind her. Soft. Still rough with sleep. She turned. He stood in the doorway wearing a t-shirt and sleep pants. Hair mussed. Face unguarded in the way it only was in the mornings, before the world required his armor. Couldn't sleep, she said. He crossed the garden, stood beside her, looked at the fountain. Still seeing it. Every time I'm out here. We can redesign the space. Change everything. No. She shook her head. I need to remember. Need to see what I chose. He took her hand, laced their fingers together. 3 months, and the gesture still felt like choosing. Every morning, she woke up and decided to stay. Every morning, he woke up and gave her the space to choose. It wasn't perfect. Some days, she felt the old instinct to run, to disappear before the other shoe dropped. Some days, he slipped back into control, giving orders instead of asking, claiming instead of requesting. But they were learning. Learning that love wasn't the absence of damage. It was the choice to heal together. Amara called yesterday, Zuri said. From Barcelona. How is she? Happy. Scared. Figuring it out. Zuri smiled. She enrolled in university. International relations. Says she wants to understand power without inheriting it. Smart. She asked about you. About us. What did you tell her? Zuri looked up at him. This man who'd noticed a bandage. Who'd broken his own rules. Who'd handed her a gun and called it trust. I told her I'm exactly where I want to be. His eyes softened. Are you? Most days. She squeezed his hand. The other days, you remind me why I stayed. He pulled her close. Kissed the top of her head. I got word from Yoon this morning, he said quietly. Your father's network is fully dismantled. The ports are under new management. Clean management. And the people who worked for him, given the choice, work legitimately or find new employment elsewhere. She nodded. Her father's empire, built on fear and blood, was being transformed into something different. Not innocent. Jin Woo's world would never be innocent. But cleaner. More controlled. Less cruel. Fandive sent something. Jin Woo continued. It arrived this morning. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Handed it to her. Zuri opened it. Inside was a photograph. Her mother. Young. Beautiful. Laughing at something off camera. And beside her, a woman with kind eyes and a bright smile. Fandive. On the back, a note in elegant handwriting. She would have been proud of the woman you became. Not the weapon. The woman who chose herself. That's the legacy that matters. Zuri's throat tightened. She'd spent so long thinking about her father's legacy. His empire. His training. His blood. She'd forgotten about her mother's. The quiet strength. The capacity for love, even when it hurt. The hope that tomorrow could be different. I want to show you something, Jin Woo said. He led her inside. Through the house. Their house now. Not just his. To his office. On the desk sat a folder. He opened it. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Property deeds. What is this? She asked. Your name. On everything. He gestured to the papers. The house. The accounts. The legal entities. All of it. She stared at him. Why? Because I meant what I said. You're not my possession. You're my partner. He touched her face. Gentle. Reverent. And I need you to know that if you ever want to leave, if this becomes too much, you won't leave with nothing. You'll leave with the resources to build whatever life you choose. Her eyes burned. You're giving me half of everything. I'm giving you the freedom to choose me without fear. She laughed. It came out wet. Broken. Beautiful. You're either the smartest man I've ever met or the most foolish. Probably both. He smiled. But I learned something from watching your father. From watching my own father. His thumb brushed her cheek. Control kills love. And I'd rather risk losing you freely than keep you trapped. She kissed him then. Soft. Deep. A kiss that tasted like gratitude and promise and the terrifying beauty of being seen completely. When they pulled apart, she pressed her forehead to his. I'm not leaving, she whispered. I know. But now you're staying because you want to. Not because you have to. There's a difference, she agreed. The only difference that matters. Later that afternoon, Zuri sat in the garden again. This time, with a laptop. She'd started writing. Her story. Her mother's story. The story of women who survived dangerous men. Not as a victim narrative. As a survival guide. How to recognize control dressed as love. How to choose yourself. How to leave. How to stay. If staying was truly a choice. She didn't know if anyone would read it, but she needed to write it anyway. Needed to transform her pain into something useful. Her phone buzzed. A message from Amara. I'm proud of you, Dada. Not for killing him. For surviving him. For building something after. Zuri smiled. Typed back. I'm proud of you too. For choosing yourself. For studying what you love. For being brave enough to start over. A pause. Then, do you ever regret it? Staying with him? Zuri looked across the garden. Jinwoo was on a call. Pacing. Hands gesturing. The sharp businessman the world saw. But when he glanced over and caught her watching, his expression softened. He mouthed, "You okay?" She nodded. He smiled. Went back to his call. She typed her response to Amara. No, because he's not father. He's not perfect. But he's trying. We both are. And that's enough. She sent it. Set the phone down. Returned to her writing. The cursor blinked on a blank page. She thought about what to write next. Then she typed. The opposite of control isn't freedom. It's choice. Every day, you choose. To stay or go. To trust or protect. To love or survive. And some days, if you're very lucky, you get to choose both. Love and survival. Partnership and independence. Healing and strength. That's not a fairy tale. That's just two broken people deciding that broken together is better than perfect alone. She stopped typing. Looked at the words. They weren't perfect, but they were true. And truth, messy, complicated, imperfect truth, was the only legacy worth leaving. If you're still here, heart full, eyes wet, mind spinning, thank you. Thank you for trusting me with 2 hours of your life. For staying through the darkness. For believing these broken people deserve their healing. Here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty and survival? Between love and freedom? Between the person you were raised to be and the person you're becoming? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Your stories matter. Remember what I said about my mom? About proving that raw stories still matter? If this touched something in you, something you didn't know you needed touched, subscribe. For yourself. And for the person scrolling tonight, desperate to know they'll survive their own impossible choice. One more thing, where did you watch this from? Drop your city below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Until the next one, take care of your heart. It survived more than you give it credit for. You're stronger than you know. And you're not alone. The bandage was gone. The bruise had faded weeks ago. All that remained was a small scar, barely visible. A reminder of the night everything changed. Zuri touched it sometimes, when she needed to remember that she'd survived, that she'd chosen, that the girl who used to hide behind silence had become a woman who spoke her truth. Jinwoo found her in the garden at sunset, pulled her close, and they stood together in the place where her father had fallen and something new had grown. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs. Chosen. Every single day,